All right, welcome to Personality Science. This is the VP Culture lesson on Personality Science number 6, and we are going to be talking about the personality trait of agreeableness. Now, agreeableness has two sub-traits that we'll be dealing with. One is politeness, and the other is compassion. Now, these two factors are the sub-factors that make up the trait of agreeableness. So let's dive a little bit deeper into what exactly agreeableness is. All right, let's talk about the trait of politeness a little bit. So politeness has to do with the ability to follow rules, your concern with how you are affecting others, your concern with how you interact with others, and basically following social norms. So you're going to be very aware of the social norms, and you're going to be very aware of practicing them. You're going to be very aware about how the other person feels as you try to practice these norms and interact with them in various contexts. So these people are all about how other people and the group are going to feel about them and their interaction with them. So they're always trying to harmonize with that group and to keep that group happy and keep things very normative within their interactions. They're going to be a politeness trait, someone high in that is going to be very concerned about what the leader in an organization, the leader in a group, the perceived leader of a group is going to interact, how they're going to interact with them. Are they going to, if they're asked to do something by a boss, they're going to be sure to do it. So a lot of times people high in politeness can oftentimes even be mistaken with people with high conscientiousness because they're getting all their work done. But they do it for a different reason. They do it because they're so polite that they don't want to not please you by doing things. So if you've got a lot of these people in your organization, it's wonderful because they're gonna be really good at compliance and following all the rules, getting everything done. They feel really good when they get everything done correctly. When you give them ambiguous instructions like, hey, we don't know how to get this done, we need somebody to come up with a creative idea, they're going to feel insecure about that particular thing because they're all about getting the right thing done. So just tell me how to do it right and I'll do it right and then I'll be very happy with that. So politeness is a great trait to have within your organization. Every organization needs these people in order to thrive and to really get things done because they're so good at following the rules and keeping other people tracking with the rules. So they're going to be very concerned with somebody who's violating those norms. Those other individuals who are high in assertiveness and low in this trait are going to make them a little bit nervous and maybe feel insecure. So there's going to be a need for a little bit of interaction between those two different types of traits that we've talked about. So these are the perceptions that you're going to see. You're going to see that they perceive things are, what are the rules? How do I do the right thing? So those are the perceptions that they're looking for, like who's in charge, what are the rules, how do I do the right thing? That's what they're perceiving all the time. And then their behavior is to strive to do the right thing. So they're always going to be doing the right thing according to what the norms are dictated by the powers that be. We're talking about agreeableness and compassion. So the people that are high in this trait are going to have strong feelings, strong emotional bonds with other people. They're going to feel the feelings of other people. So let's dive into their perceptions of the world here. So look for people in need and help with people in pain. They're constantly scanning for the emotional output of other people, and they're going to feel their pain. They're going to be very empathetic and sympathetic. They're going to be engaging with that. So because they carry other people's feelings with them, they're going to be very engaging with those other people and very prone to act towards those other people. The behaviors that they're going to exhibit are the tendency to help others, the tendency to bring harmony to situations, and the tendency towards effective relationships, and maybe even going out into the community and helping them because they see groups of people that are feeling certain ways. So these are great people to have on your team because they're always going to have this emotional awareness of others. And emotions are feeling the feelings of others. So they internalize the emotional states of others by feeling them themselves. So they're very good reflectors and harmonizers with other people. And that causes them to, compassion is actually a word that means to feel pain with. So they're often feeling the pain of the other people. So a great person to have in a group because they're going to have great emotional awareness of everyone in their group. So the spectrum of superpowers. So let's go through a few individuals that are on these spectrums and talk about this so that, like I said, it's always great to have sort of an icon of people that you know fixed in your brain, close people that you know that might have this trait. You go like, oh, I know my sister has this, my mom has this. That helps you to really be able to fix this trait in your brain. So we're going to do it with some well-known characters because we don't all have the same sisters and brothers. But let's talk about Ross Geller on the Friends show. So what is Ross? Ross is somebody who is always in the group. He's always kind of sensitive towards everybody else in the group. He's always kind of supportive. He's always trying to do what's right. He's always concerned about what are the rules in his workplace. He's always concerned about like, how's everybody feeling in the group? He's very loyal. He's very kind. He's always bringing people towards each other. He's not sort of the maverick of the group. He's the staid rule follower, and he wants everyone else to kind of follow the rules too. And you can see his compassion for others that's often displayed within how he interacts with the other friends as well. So this is a great character to kind of remember, somebody who's high in agreeableness. He'll always chip in because he wants to help other people. So a historical figure. Let's talk about a historical figure. Mahatma Gandhi. He's somebody who's probably high in compassion, definitely. He could feel the pain of the people that he was trying to lead. And so he would often adopt their situations. He didn't put on airs. He didn't try to live above them. He lived with them. And he adopted nonviolent social interactions because he sensed that if I can adopt something where I'm not being aggressive, that they, out of their compassion, will start to do what we want them to do. So he was using his agreeableness and corresponding to other people's agreeableness, calling for other people's agreeableness to really interact with him in his quest for justice and social interaction, which is also a part of compassion that fits in. Trying to get the fairness for everybody within a group is something. So he's very selfless too. So rather than focusing on his own feelings and pain, he focused on the emotional worlds of others and trying to bring goodness and justice to others. And interestingly, that even applied to the people who would so-called be his enemies, the people he was negotiating with. He even had compassion on them. He would win them by his agreeableness, not by his disagreeableness. So all of this he's a great character to kind of think of, who's agreeable in history. Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, another fictional character here for us, going back to Star Wars, is Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's somebody that's always working with people, and you can see he's working with them in a very kind of compassionate and empathetic way. He wants them to kind of explore their own inner worlds. He kind of senses their inner worlds. He's got that sort of mystical feeling of knowing people and understanding people. So he's always trying to foster trust and cooperation and in altruism and warmth. And he's always trying to resolve conflicts rather than create more conflict. So that's pretty exemplary of people that are high in agreeableness. You can see their compassion, you can see their rule following, and all of those things that are apparent in the way that this Obi-Wan Kenobi interacted with us in the story of Star Wars. All right. So the spectrum of superpowers also has strengths and weaknesses. If you know agreeable people, they're always tactful, they always get along, they're always helpful, they've got all these great traits. But the problem is they sometimes have some weaknesses too. Now their weaknesses, sometimes they stay inside the box because they're afraid, like, what if we go outside of this box? Is this going to help us? What's going on here? They allow others to sometimes take advantage of them because, they're such rule followers that they want to make sure that they're doing everything correctly. They oftentimes get compassion fatigue. They can give so much. And this is what you need to be careful as a leader. You can rely on them so heavily because they'll just keep doing what you ask them to do to their own demise, so they'll tire themselves out trying to please you or trying to please the group or trying to please the leader. These are the people in the group that do so much that you actually have to kind of watch out for them, not to take advantage of them. Like, remind them to take care of themselves as much as they take care of others. So that's kind of the strengths and weaknesses of this particular superpower. All right, now we're going to delve into some of the science behind agreeableness. So agreeableness has a lot to do with the left and right brain split. Now, according to Ian McGilchrist, who's a very famous neuroscientist who's written a huge book on the left and right split, you can't, as a neuroscientist, divide the brain perfectly into two halves and put everything in one bucket and say it's all the right brain does this and all the left brain does this. But if you were to give a dominance to the right brain is going to have a little bit more of a processing of how people feel, a little bit more of the linguistic, emotional side of things, a little bit more of attention to how others are feel, and the holistic picture of things. The left brain is more looking at the pieces, parts of things, and being a little bit more analytical and trying to pull things apart and the reasons why. So the right brain is more people-centric in its engagement. So the reason why I tell you all this is so that you could see that there's real differences in people's brains. We're going to be looking at another book and listening to Chantal Pratt, and she's written about this as well. And she says that these people who have a little bit more right brain dominance tend to be the people that are a little bit more socially interactive and correspond to the agreeableness trait. So you get a couple neuroscientists weighing in on this, saying these people tend to have a little bit more of the agreeableness factor because their right brain is a little bit more active. So again, I say all this so that we can understand that these aren't just sociological categories that we've come up with. There's real differences in people, how people are wired and put together. So hopefully this helps you to understand and have compassion on other people, understanding that they do things differently because they're wired differently. And if you go way back, people are wired differently because these different types of people have different tools to solve different problems. And our brain capacity is such that you have to narrow it down in order to be really effective and really fast at solving those problems. So when we have that, we have somebody we come up with a person who's highly agreeable, and they're problem solving in these great ways. So use these people and release their superpowers of their super brains, their super right brains that are supercharged scientifically to solve problems in a great way. So let's move on to the next situation here. The insula. This is another thing that these people have amped up in their brains. It's part of the prefrontal cortex. It's deeper inside the brain. It's a thin little strip of your brain, and it's basically responsible for making a map of how other people feel and how you're feeling and how that corresponds to each other. It's responsible for our social cognition. It's responsible for us understanding what are the rules, what are the social engagement rules in this place. So all of that's a whole part of the brain that they follow. That's like, is this person following the norms? Do they need to be punished? Should they be encouraged? What do I need to do? So you can see how this part of the brain, being very active and strong, is again going to make someone more dominant by using this part of the brain in the agreeableness sector of our 5-factor model. Again, they've got their brains wired to do this really well. So instead of saying, hey, why don't you tone that down? Why don't you say, hey, let's see how we can utilize this for the best of everyone in our team and for themselves and for the people that they're trying to serve. So it's a great thing to have, but like we said, you could have too much of it too. So that's why you have these different people within your organization who all have different amounts of these things working together so that they can make a very well-rounded, fast type of perception and behavior situation to solve the problems in your team. And then we have brainwave synchronization. This sounds a little bit hippie, doesn't it? Where you get into the point where like, yeah, man, we're really vibing. But according to Chantal Pratt, another neuroscientist, this is a thing. People actually, they put these EEGs that actually study your brain waves, which is kind of the holistic synchronization of your own brain. And then they put them together and they do different things like learning languages, playing games, reading stories together. And the more relevant the story is to each other, the more they're interacting around, saying, learning a language or an activity, the more their brains come into synchrony. So this is something that, again, that agreeableness people are good at, of achieving good brain synchrony with others, because that's their whole goal, is to I want to be in synchronization with you. So you can see how they'd be great people to have on board on a team. They're going to create glue and cohesiveness. They might not question the status quo, but the sense of being on same page with another person is going to be powerful with these people. So release that in your group, encourage that in your group, and then encourage these highly agreeable people to see how somebody who's less than agreeable can break free from the group and cause new problems, or new solutions rather, to flourish where they might not see them. So have these people work together in concert with others. So usually agreeable people are really good at working in concert with others. So let's look at these 4 questions again. Okay, as always, please have your people stand in the order that they are. So people high in agreeableness, have them stand on one side, low in agreeableness, stand on one side of the room, and people in the middle stand in the middle. That gives you a visual perspective on where people stand on this spectrum, so that they can understand visually and mentally much clearer how this discussion is going to play out and how that affects different people's perceptions and realities. So let's look at that was question number 1. So let's look at question number 2. What advantages are there to having high amounts of agreeableness? So answer that within your group. Notice where they're standing. Are people with low amounts of agreeableness understanding this trait? Are people with high amounts of agreeableness exhibiting this trait? Next question. What advantages are there to having low amounts of agreeableness? What are you free from? How do you operate that is helpful, you in low in agreeableness? It's good for you to be there. So why are you helpful because you have low amounts of agreeable? What does it free you from? What does it empower you to be? Question number 4, what advantages are there to having middling amounts of agreeableness? You in the middle, speak up. How do you bring good things to your organization and to your team? All right, so discuss this amongst your team. Get a feel for how you are working together and how you affect each other. All right, so that brings us to the end of this lesson, where we're talking about agreeableness with the 2 traits of politeness and compassion, and how those interact with each other make superpowers for your team, to lead them towards more team cohesiveness, more vision of how other people are feeling, and more emotional energy to try and help others inside and outside of your group. Great trait to have, great superpower people. Protect them, empower them, and all those who don't have this trait can benefit from them, and those who don't have this trait in high abundance can also be helpful to these agreeable people too, to break free from their current patterns that aren't always helpful. So VP culture, personality science, trying to release the awesomeness in everybody so that we can all feel valued within our organization. So that was lesson number 6, and we hope you join us for lesson number 7.